In Brightspace, you can personalize learning or differentiate learning based on students' skill level and interests. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can do this. I'm in my Bible 10 course, and students are required to do a final project, but I want to give them a choice of 3 different projects. And I don't want to overwhelm them by giving them the content and the assignment spaces for every project. So I've created a module called Final Project, and then I have created lessons for each of the 3 options. And then I have created a checklist. The checklist is what is going to enable you to differentiate this for your students. So to create the checklist, go to Create New and then choose Checklist. I'm just going to open mine. Okay, you're going to give your checklist a name. So I just called it Project Choice. And then I give them a description of what this checklist was going to do. I tell them that they have a choice of 3 different projects, and I'm going to provide them with a brief description of each. Now, in your checklist, you have to start by creating a new category. So I called my category Project Choice, and then I added items for each of the choices that they have. So for example, here's the Ecclesiastes project, and I give them just a brief overview of what that project is and the driving question for that project. And then save, and I've done the same thing for the other 2 projects. And then once your checklist is created, you can save and close. And I'm going to go back over to my course content and to that module with my projects. Now here I am going to attach release conditions to each project. So for my Profits project, I'm going to go to my 3 dots and choose View or Create Release Conditions. I'm going to walk through here the steps that I did. Okay, so create. The condition type is going to be completed checklist item. This means that they're going to choose a specific choice on your checklist. So the checklist is called Project Choice. Now the item that they're going to choose is Profit Project. If they choose Profit Project, this module will be released to them. And then you're going to do the same thing on your other 2 modules, but of course you're going to choose a different checklist item. Okay, I'm going to show you another way that you could use the same process. I'm going to go over to my art course now. In my art course, I have a beginning project that asks students to use a grid to draw a picture. And this is an image development skill, and some of them may have done this before in the past, so they may have completed this project fairly easily. I have a follow-up project later in my course which builds on this skill. They're going to use that same strategy of using a grid, and this time they're going to enlarge a project. Now, if they felt really confident, I want to offer them an option for a challenge. So I've created an optional assignment that they could choose. It's called a distortion drawing, a distortion project, and it's harder than the enlargement project. Now I've created a checklist again, and I've just called it enlargement or distortion project, and then I give them a description again of what this checklist is asking and what it's going to do. So I explain to them that they now have a choice for their project. They can either do the enlargement or the distortion, and I tell them that the distortion is more of a challenge. I've created my categories, so it's just one category, your choice, and then the items are enlargement project and distortion project. I'm going to save and close and go back to my content. Now this time I did not restrict the enlargement lesson and project from students, but I did restrict the more challenging project, so I only put release conditions on the distortion one. And I went to, I'm going to take this off and walk you through the process again. Create. Condition type is a checklist item. The checklist was enlargement or distortion project, and the item is distortion project, and create. Now, this lesson with the instructions for this more complicated project and the assignment spaces is restricted. Now, so a student will only see this if they've selected distortion project on that checklist. Now, if they read through this and decide, oh, this is more complicated, they can always go back and do the slightly easier lesson because I didn't restrict that for them. Or they could go back if you did restrict it, and they could check a new item on the checklist, and then that would open up the other alternative for them.